Hey everyone, this time on Tim Talks Audio, we're checking out a free phasing and chorusing plugin. This is going to be Beam Haze. Hi, my name is Tim. If it's your first time here, I'm a recording and mixing engineer, and I just want to make things a little easier for you. Today we're checking out the phasing chorusing plugin Beam Haze. This video is in partnership with Lunacy Audio, so thanks to them for sponsoring this video, but all of the opinions within it are my own. Haze can offer lots of textures and lots of movement, but instead of talking about it, let's check it out. Let's dive into the DAW. Okay, so here it is. This is a default version of Haze. So Haze is, like we said, it's a time-based multi-effect kind of processor. It has chorusing, it has phasing, it has a little bit of delay built in, and you can kind of blend between all of these different things. Like we usually do in our plugin videos, we're going to go over all of the controls first, but if you want to jump ahead to the audio examples, use the chapters down below. So let's dive into the controls of Haze. And all of the controls you'll need are along the bottom of the user interface. The top middle is a nice graphic interface just to kind of show you what's happening. So from left to right, it's like your signal coming in, being processed through the central singularity orb thing here in the middle, and then output on the end. So it kind of shows you how it can manipulate, but really it's just kind of a graphical sort of thing. Underneath is where all of our controls are. The left-hand section of the controls allows you to manipulate the space that Haze is going to be working within, so kind of adjusting the decay and diffusion of some of these sounds, how wide or narrow it is, and just kind of how on top of each other they are. So that's kind of what density and decay is. It helps kind of spread the frequencies out and have them bounce back at different times. You have to use these three to kind of move your sounds whichever way you want them. But speaking of movement, you get way more from the second section, scale and motion. When we get into these, you'll hear how much even just a tiny bit of motion can really start to affect your source signal. And then obviously scale is how much of this motion do you want to apply. We also have a cool XY pad down here, and so without kind of really going in, you can see I have this little dot that I'm clicking and dragging around, and it's adjusting both the scale and the motion. So essentially it's an XY pad. And so it allows you to manipulate these two parameters at the same time. Next to that, you have the smear control, and this actually kind of mushes frequencies sort of together. It's really weird to say because it's a filter. I mean, it tells you right there with the tooltip, set the center frequency of the smear filter. So you can move this around and it kind of just like mushes the frequencies in that area. It's hard to explain, but I'll kind of emphasize this later so you can really hear what it's doing. And then of course we have a mix control at the end, so you can do parallel processing right inside the plugin. Other things we didn't talk about is up along top you have a preset browser. You just open this up and click whatever you want. Use the little floppy disk if you create something that you want to save as a preset. Then you have an overall output control up on the top right, and your settings, which is just check for updates, your user interface size, etc., etc. So that's all of the controls for Haze. Now let's get into how this thing sounds. I have two examples for you today. So we're going to start off with just a basic piano to give you the basic idea of what Haze is doing. Then we're going to go into a song that's kind of lo-fi-ish and mysterious that I wrote, where I'm using Haze on both some of my melodic elements, but really I'm doing it on the drums because I want to mush them around. We'll get to that in a little bit. Let's start off with our piano. Here's our starting point, and I'm just going to take Haze and put it into bypass, so unaffected, here's our piano. So pretty standard piano, a little darker. It's a pop style piano. It's a preset, don't worry about it. So let's go ahead and turn on Haze, and just starting off, I'm gonna mess with motion. I'm gonna reset scale back to 50%. That's its default state right here. And I just wanna start increasing motion. Take a listen to this. And that's just motion. Now, if we actually use this on an XY style where we'll increase or decrease our scale. So if we go down, obviously we're going to decrease. If we go up, we're going to increase. And that just changes the size and the amount of warble and effect that is going on. Again, we haven't changed decay, density, or spread at all. And we're not even smearing. Although it's on, we'll just turn it off. Take a listen. So really applying a lot of effect, increasing the amount of phasing and chorusing that we're getting. Now, if we really want, we could just pull down our mix and blend this in, and it's almost like we have an affected reverb. Check this out. So we can get some of that clean piano in, but some of that dissonant unsteadiness that we're getting from the effect just by blending it back in. Let's put this back up to 100, and before we go over into our density and decay and spread controls, let's highlight smear. I'm gonna just bring this down to about here, where we're gonna get some motion and some of our effect, but we really wanna concentrate on smear for this one. So let's turn it on, and I am going to just kind of bring this way up, and I'll mess around with Q as we're going through, but I'm going to hit play, I'm going to adjust the frequency, and then we'll adjust the Q so you can hear what it's doing. So there was a little extra resonance in this area, especially when I hit stop, I could hear it kind of just holding out a little bit longer. It's kind of a nice bit of depth, which was really cool. All right, with all of these same settings, now let's go over into decay, density, and spread, and we'll just mess around with these real fast before we jump into our other audio example where we're really kind of smushing those drums. But let's mess around with decay, density, and spread. I really let that one kind of decay out on its own. It had this really cool resonance that just kind of fell off, but that almost decaying warble, that's really the best words I can come up with. It's kind of nice. There's really a lot of different things you can do here. Now with these new controls, again, let's go and mess with scale and motion and hear how crazy it can get. That almost gives like a tape stop kind of effect, but you can hear it kind of slowing down and then ramping back up. It's this really cool, nice kind of just detuned, kind of not really stable. It really adds a nice bit of motion, and just, especially if you're going for that uneasy kind of feel, something like this can really add that kind of sense in. So that's all the defaults. That's going through all of the different controls. Now let's go to our other audio example. We're also going to be using one of the instruments from Lunacy Audio called Cube. And if you want a video on that, let me know down in the comments. And I'll do a follow-up video because it's a really cool multi-instrument with lots of layers and textures. But right now, let's just mess around with this. And again, we're going to wait until our drums come in because that's where we have Haze. I have it as my first plugin, and then I'm doing some post-processing just to kind of grid it up and have it kind of punch through. But here are my settings for Haze on my drums. And here's the example. So there it is. That is Beam Haze from Lunacy Audio, and it's free. So use the link down in the description to pick up your own copy of Beam Haze right now. Once again, thanks to Lunacy Audio for sponsoring this video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope it kind of gave you some idea of the depth and motion you can get with a plugin like this. Beam Haze is free, so why not use exactly this one inside your productions to create all kinds of different textures, layers, and motion. I hope you've enjoyed. Happy mixing, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.